Well, yeah, certainly. I mean, it was our fault. We made a mistake. The spotter said it was clear. It wasn't clear, and, I didn't want to tear my car up, tear his car up either. I respect everybody, and I demand respect. And, I apologized to the guy when he came over the car, explained to him what happened, and then he took it to another level when he started calling me an idiot and whatever else. And I don't appreciate that. I'm not going to take it. I told him how I felt. I called him out. He didn't show. And so, I'm good with it if he's good with it, but I'm not going to be disrespected by no means.
Yeah, I guess I had a dinner date at Applebee's last night that I didn't find out until it was too late. It's a shame. Love their riblets and boneless wings, but...
All right, folks, welcome back to Meet Me at Applebee's, your number one unrefined motorsports podcast. It's Brian here with Rob and Ashley, as always. We got The Rock to talk about, some short track nonsense, and who knows what else. So, folks, how we doing this week?
Doing pretty good. Speaking of short tracks, the season up here in New England is fully underway, fucking finally. We had cold races. We had some pretty nice weather. But all in all, I'm a very happy man after spending what felt like 3 weeks at the racetrack since the last episode. How you doing, Truelove?
I'm good. As soon as we went live, the bowl of cereal I ate for dinner was like, hey, you want to get nauseous real quick?
Fuck yeah.
You get sick from cereal? What the fuck?
What kind of... You sure it was cereal?
Down some dinner cereal. Anyway, I'm here.
How about you, Brian? Are you nauseous?
No, thankfully I'm just fine.
Good.
Had a nice day, so I got nothing to complain about.
Good.
Applebee's cereal.
Yeah. Do they have cereal at Applebee's? I guess I could just check the menu.
I wouldn't be surprised. I did learn, however, this week that the original name of Applebee's was TJ Applebee's Edibles and Elixirs.
That's right.
Yeah, I've seen one or two old signs from stores on Marketplace and stuff, and I've always kind of thought about picking one up, but just never have.
Yeah, that's exactly where the logo we borrowed for this show came from, was the old TJ Applebee's logo.
Yes. I also learned that the very first Applebee's ever is in Atlanta, so I'll have to make a field trip sometime.
Well, that has to happen now. Is it still there?
I think it's still there. It's been remodeled, but same location.
Yeah, some call that progress, but I doubt it.
I don't know.
I doubt it.
Anyways.
Anyways, so yeah, we have some racing to talk about.
The Rock.
Yes, NASCAR returned to the Rock this weekend for first time in 10-ish, 20-ish years, depending on how you're looking at it. But we had the trucks, we had ARCA and Xfinity on Friday and Saturday. And it was a pretty action-packed weekend, I would say. I mean, there was definitely lots of stuff going on.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it through and through, and I'm excited to talk about it. But before we get into it, you don't see racetracks open up very often. I think a lot of people thought that place was sort of left for dead, at least for racing. I know they've been doing some event-related stuff there, and they have music festivals and shit, but I don't think anyone really expected NASCAR in particular to return. And it was super cool to see the turnout. Sold out both days, right?
No, Friday didn't sell out, but it was a good crowd. I mean, much better than any other truck race.
But still, a sold-out Xfinity race is words that none of us have ever said before. I think literally that's not
since the 90s, I would say. I don't think it's happened, but yeah. But yeah, we started off things Friday with the trucks, and before we get to the actual on-track action, we got to talk about the booth because we had Jamie Little, had our old pal Michael Waltrip, and his favorite Carson Hocevar in the booth.
Favorite boy, yeah.
I mean, I'm sure Mikey was absolutely thrilled with that. And now, of course, we're at Rockingham, and for those who weren't around 20-something years ago, of course, this was the first track that NASCAR raced at after Dale Earnhardt's death. So, of course, that has to be dredged up on the broadcast. So they're going to bring that stuff up because that was an emotional race for everybody. We all know Mikey's obsession with Dale. And Carson now with the they call it the Dale truck. Listen, the real ones know that's a Mike Skinner paint scheme on a Chevy. But, yes, Carson with his Dale truck, he's now up in the Dale nostalgia. So while they're reminiscing about the 2001 race. Carson's in the booth, and he's got a not that cool Dale Earnhardt jacket, but it's a Dale Earnhardt jacket that I guess somebody in his family owned, so he brought it with him. And Mikey, while they're talking about this, just like rubs his arm, just fondly remembering.
There's a 3 on the sleeve, and he reaches down and just starts rubbing his hand on it.
Yeah.
And the thing that I enjoyed the most about this was it was funny visually, but just knowing that they weren't even at the racetrack and this was happening in a studio like 100 miles away with like 5 people in the room made it even more special to me.
Which, to give him credit, Carson did actually drive up there on Saturday with the Dale truck and hung out. So, but yeah, that was such a weird move. Like, you're only like an hour from Charlotte. Like, why not just go up there?
I don't understand it.
Yeah, I don't get that either. I will say this: Dale did talk about the studio stuff. Like, Dale Jr. talked about the studio stuff on his podcast a few weeks ago, and he did bring up a good point about road courses. Like, it makes sense for those because, in the booth you can only see a section anyway, so I can understand that. But yeah, when you're at an oval an hour away from your studio, just go to the track. What are you doing?
What was he saying in Chicago?
Yeah, it was Chicago.
They were like in a truck or like
they were in a fucking
container.
Container doing all the TV stuff. Like, why am I even here? Like,
seriously. Yeah, but Rockingham is within driving distance
or train distance.
He can take a train. As Buddy wouldn't know.
Yeah, Buddy did not know. Matt Weaver did take the train, and he barely made it back on Saturday, but we'll get into that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the truck started off things Friday, and it was a good race. I would say, you got a ton of people on there. I don't think anybody in this race had raced Rockingham before. Maybe Matt Crafton. He'd probably be the only one.
I mean, there was a few in there, but yeah, Matt was definitely one of the few. That's for sure.
Yeah, and kind of on par with the rest of the Truck Series races this year. It was a pretty clean race. I mean, there were a couple wrecks here and there.
And not for Stuart Friesen.
Well, yeah, not for poor Stuart Friesen. Stuart Friesen, he got involved in a wreck on the front stretch and then gave a interview where he basically was like, I don't think this is worth it anymore, which, was pretty wild to see because, he doesn't do horribly in the trucks. He's won a couple races, but when you're winning 80% of your modified races every weekend, I guess I can understand maybe getting tired of getting wrecked and just not finishing that great. So who knows what'll happen there. I mean, if he's done, I'd have to imagine, it'll be the end of the season. I can't imagine him just pulling out now, but that was an interesting moment for sure.
Good riddance, but
again, as a modified guy, it's like I feel like I have a little allegiance to him, but he's also kind of a dick. So
huge dick. Yeah,
I don't love him, but other than that, trying to think. Ty Majeski and Frankie Muniz wrecked again. The Frankie Muniz experiment, I think it needs to end. He just go focus on Malcolm in the middle. Anything else major happened before we get into like the last stage?
I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't recall anything either. I mean, it was a good race, but what happened really? This turned out to be a fuel race, which is interesting, and because they don't really, especially with stage racing these days, you don't really see fuel mileage races happen too often anymore. And it's almost like, I remember as a kid when this type of stuff would happen, it wouldn't really have the same excitement that it does now. But now as an adult who has much more better understanding of, fuel and strategy and that type of stuff, it was very interesting. And I'm trying to think who had the lead before Ankrum. But there were a handful of guys.
Chandler Smith.
Chandler Smith, yeah. Which glad he didn't win, even though I'm not an Ankrum fan. But guys just kind of started dropping like flies like 20-ish to go, I want to say, and it was like nobody even knew if Ankrum was going to make it.
Well, he had pitted like 15 or so laps before the guys were running out, so I don't know how the fuck they managed to math that one out.
Yeah, I don't know either. But I know he was like coasting a lot in the last few. He had such a big lead, he didn't really need to push it at the very end.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess he wasn't mad at his team this week.
No. Well, they got that extra big fuel line in the thing this week, so that helped.
The old Smokey Unix special.
Yeah. But yeah, he got his first win since 2019 at Kentucky, which is a track that also doesn't exist anymore. Well, it exists, but nobody races.
It's been that long since he won.
Yeah, that was his last one.
I didn't think he was that old.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's funny because they showed, pictures and footage of that race, and like, look at how young he looks. Like, he fucking still looks young now. But I mean, he's just kind of like, he's grown a little more middle-aged looking while still looking like a 14-year-old, 30-year-old, wherever the fuck he actually is. I don't know how old he is.
It's like Cole Custer a few years ago kind of had that going on.
Yeah.
Straight from like 19 to managing a pet boy somewhere.
But yeah, I mean, that was pretty much Friday. I mean, it was a good race and again, good crowd. And
yeah, I enjoyed the hell out of it. One thing I got to say about the broadcast and maybe the track or a combination of the two, but I love that at Rockingham you can actually see how fucking fast these guys are going. And it seemed to be kind of immune to Fox's need to zoom in to read the letters on the car as close as possible. It just looked really fast, like Dover does, or another place kind of like that. There's no denying how much mail these guys were hauling around. I really enjoyed the shit out of that, and it really kind of showed you just how badass this is on television, which is a rarity. Usually it doesn't look like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I only got to watch the first two stages, and then I went to Lanier Speedway, so I had to watch the end of the race and the highlight reels. But from what I did see, speaking of Carson Hocevar, he absolutely killed it in the booth. Like,
did a great job.
Oh yeah,
dominated that booth. Like, he was covering it.
Yeah, I couldn't believe how on top of it he was with calling everything. Just miles above any active driver. I mean, there's plenty of active drivers that are good in the booth, but as far as like actually calling everything he was seeing, like he was phenomenal.
Yeah,
like,
and to not be there as well, like just calling it on screen.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he didn't get to handle the call for the win because they did that thing where they called the winner like a good 30 seconds after it's happened. So that was a cool little thing that Fox is doing that they brought back this week. Yeah, it's time to put Jamie back in the pits. I hate all the slander, but it's just not good. She doesn't have the thing that it takes to be the point in the broadcast, and it's a shame because she's such a talented and smart, knowledgeable individual who kills it in every other capacity, but just not like this.
Yeah. Well, everybody's got their roles, and I understand why they'd want to put her in the booth. But yeah, she's better suited for other places at the track. Yeah. So
actually, at the racetrack, in the pits, please.
Yeah,
that's what I want.
Let's see. And moving on to Saturday, so I didn't watch any of the ARCA race, so you'll have to fill me in.
Brent Cruz won. That's all I know.
That's all I know.
I saw Timmy Hill wrecked pretty good, and that's pretty much all I know about what happened in the ARCA race. So
yeah, I had some feedback from some folks down there. Kyle Armstrong and Kim Bob were both down there in the garage, and Buddy from last week were there, and they all, I think Buddy said this as well, but Kyle and Ken in particular were saying just how fast and impressive Brent Cruz was, and literally no one had anything for him. And it was a pretty stacked field for ARCA. There was a lot of cars, and as these races tend to go, you're either in a really fast Venturini car or a Gibbs car or something like that, or you're 55 miles an hour off the pace.
Is Brent Cruz like the teenager that drives for Gibbs?
Brent Cruz is he a Chevy guy? Maybe I'm just thinking about the late model stuff. I think maybe he was in a Toyota. I don't know. I didn't watch the race. I just know he was fast.
Yeah. But I just know there's a teenager that drives for Gibbs in ARCA right now. I can't remember his name. So
yeah, Brent's done some races for Dale Jr. In the Cars Tour and late models and all that. And I think that's where my confusion's coming from. He might be in Toyota now. I think he is in that pipeline.
He's in Toyota.
Yeah.
But, who cares, really? He pissed me off a couple weeks ago at Phoenix or whenever that was when he wrecked Butterbean or roughed him up a little bit. So still sore from that.
Still stewing.
Yeah.
Well, moving on
Speaking of still stewing.
Yeah. Moving on to the Xfinity race, which was the main event of the weekend. again, I think we have yet another weekend this year where the truck race is better than the Xfinity race. I don't know if you guys agree, but
certainly cleaner. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a cleaner race.
Definitely
for sure.
pissed me off. So.
Yeah, I mean, this race, I was expecting a great show, based on what we saw Friday, but a lot of guys, like there were a lot of wrecks, which,
almost broke the record.
Yeah, 14 cautions, I think, which, yeah, I mean, that was tied the record at the track. And the big one, which we know deeply angered Truelove over here.
I was so mad. I was so fucking mad. It made me so glad that I didn't spend my time and money going to this race because...
It was early.
Oh,
Yeah.
so early.
Yeah, I mean,
it was the end of stage 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude,
So,
I hopped in my car at Loudon, and I was like, and I turned on MRN, and I was like, oh, fuck yeah, the race is about to start. And I hadn't even made it to the highway yet, and this happened.
Yeah.
yeah. So I forget who she was behind or whatever, but Catherine Legg was going into turn 1, and I think she was near the leader. Whoever that was.
She's up in the lead pack, yeah.
Yeah, but she was already a lap down, and we also failed to mention that she didn't make the race on time, so she bought out J.J. Yaley's ride, which this is something that's been...
shit. I know it's always been around, but I always hated it. I hate it.
Yeah, but it is what it is. But yeah, she bought out Yaley's ride, and she was already laps down at this point, and she really checked up. You could see on TV she checked up a lot going into 1, and that led to William Sawalich getting into her and wrecking her, and in turn, Casey Kane was collected in this, which not to get too far ahead of us, Kane was able to recover and he did finish in the top 15, but he probably would have done better had his front end not been wrecked prior to this.
Yeah, he was fast all weekend. He qualified pretty well and was near the top of the board in practice. And
yeah,
I wasn't really sure what to expect because sometimes the RCR cars, they're fast, but especially if there's a part-timer, you can kind of see him middling. And Casey's been out of the car for like 6 years, something like that. When was his last race?
Yeah, I mean he's still racing sprint cars, obviously, but it's been a while since he's been in a stock car, and he was probably poised. I would imagine a top 10, maybe a top 5.
Oh, for sure.
I don't think he necessarily would have won, but he definitely would have finished better than he did. And of course, this obviously caused a major uproar online.
Well, I want to talk about Truelove's feelings first.
Let's talk about that first before we get into the uproar.
Truelove.
Okay, I was pissed. I'm still annoyed, but I don't put it 100% on Catherine.
No, me either.
Yeah, that's fair.
The third place car got around her fine because he was in the racing line. And she left the racing line open. And Casey in 5th was also in the racing line, poised to go right by her. But Sawalich in 4th was slightly above the racing line that she left open. So it was just an unfortunate combination of...
Yeah. And mind you, these cars, maybe if you watch Xfinity or truck races, you forget this, or ARCA for that matter. But these cars do have brakes in them. You can slow them down. You don't have to ass pack whoever's in front of you. And Catherine, she backed off pretty hard, and she did slip down into, she kind of pinched the bottom a little bit. There's no question about that. Yeah. But Sawalich is supposed to be one of the next big things in one of the fastest cars. And, as somebody who's on the lead lap at the front of the pack, you'd think they'd be able to get around lap traffic a little better than that. So, yeah, Catherine definitely has a big hand to play in this. But... she was, and again, I was listening on the radio, so I don't know if that was the line she was racing in, but it's generally accepted that if that's the line you're running, then people have to go around you. If you're erratic and doing all kinds of bullshit and switching lanes and blocking, then it's a problem if you're lap traffic. Yeah. But as long as you're picking the same line, which I feel like she probably was, because Truelove's right, the bottom was the lane, then this it's not a problem. And yeah, this could have been avoided, and I feel like Sawalich deserves at least a little slap on the wrist for this, if not more. Catherine's taken a lot of hate, and I don't think it's 100% fair, just the amount of fucking nastiness she's getting right now.
Yeah, I think if it was anybody else besides Sawallich, we probably wouldn't be talking about this right now.
Well, if it was anyone else but Casey Kane, got caught up in it too.
Also true.
Broke all the hearts that day.
Yeah, if it was Austin Hill, she would have been the driver of the day for me. So.
But yeah, unfortunately for her, this led to a lot of backlash online, and I don't have a major opinion either way. I just don't like the fact that so many people, pull the DEI hire, or she doesn't belong in the track or whatever, and I just don't know what to say here, other than I feel bad that she's getting all this unfair negative attention.
I mean, she probably doesn't belong there, but let's be honest, like there's never a reason to say some of the things. I guess she's been getting death threats.
Yeah,
which is fucking
ridiculous, gross shit that doesn't need to be said.
Yeah. Unless you're racing, you don't get to really get mad about this. Like, who fucking cares?
The best part of this is that after that wreck happened, they went to commercial, and then they came back from commercial, and the booth didn't realize that they were live yet, and you could hear Jamie Mack talking in the background, and he goes, "She bought her way in." That was
well, she did. She did, but
definitely not how she wanted that weekend to go. No. I think that's nothing we can all agree on here. Is that it went about as bad as it could have.
All of her upcoming cup races are on road courses, thankfully, but the rest of her Xfinity races are still on ovals. So.
Yeah, she's going to Talladega, so that'll be fun.
She'll be at Talladega too. So
oof.
Casey Kane will be at home, tucked away safely.
Yeah, trial by fire.
But yeah, going back to the rest of the race, I mean, like I said, there were a lot of cautions. It did kind of become a fuel race at the end, just like the trucks, which this ended it with a lot more calamity. I'm trying to think of who had the lead and who dropped out, but there was a caution with a couple laps to go. Again, people were running out. They even had to red flag it, I think, for a little bit. Yeah, because it was such a big wreck.
There was 2 red flags. One for a big wreck, and then another one. It seemed like they red flagged it because everyone was running out of fuel.
Well, no, the one wreck they had to fix, or was that Friday? There was one wreck where they either Friday or Saturday where they had to fix the wall. I can't remember when that was, and that was a brief red flag. But yeah, there was a big wreck, a couple laps to go, which led to a green-white checkered, and I think it was Eckes that ran out of gas and caused a big pile up on the front stretch.
Everybody up, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which Jesse Love was leading most of the day, which we'll talk about that in a second. But
him and Ryan Sieg had a great battle for a long time too for the lead.
That was awesome.
They did. That was great.
Awesome.
Jesse actually, his strategy was a bit different, and he ended up pitting with like 30 to go from the lead, and because of all the wrecks and everybody else running out of gas, he was able to get in a good position at the very end to he basically ran away with it at the very end once they did that last restart.
As did his car after he took the checkered flag.
Yes but that win was short-lived. Because later that night it was announced that he was disqualified. There's some sort of joint in the rear end where basically every component has to be touching, and the spacing was off. So that disqualified
didn't pass
him.
the droop check.
Yeah.
To borrow a late model term.
Which gave the win to a guy who did fine and kept his nose clean the last few weeks, Sammy Smith.
And Sammy Smith did get a little tub video from RJ as a result.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Oh, we didn't even mention with a few laps, or the restart was going to be Sammy Smith and Taylor Gray, and I was like, "Come on, Taylor, you know what to do." But no, Jesse Love was just gone, so it was kind of a moot point. But yeah, he ended up getting that win taken away. Thankfully, DraftKings did not take away my Jesse Love winning, so I was happy with that.
Yeah.
And also, too, we had a couple guys in the top 5 that aren't there that often. Oh, Brennan Poole got his second top 5 of the season, which is good for him. But
very nice.
Parker Retzlaff ended up finishing second after all was said and done, which I actually won like $5 off betting on him for a top 5 off 10 cents. So that was pretty sweet. And also, too,
Parker's good, man. He really is.
Yeah. Dale Jr. did an interview on Sports Illustrated, I guess, last week, and he talked about how that's the guy people got to keep an eye on, because he does very well in not the top tier equipment. I mean, Alpha Prime has improved over the last few seasons, but he's been doing good. I mean, he's been running up front a lot, and maybe not necessarily getting the finishes, but
I mean, he almost won the Pepsi 400 or whatever the fuck it's called now.
Yeah, that was in the Beard car, I think, last year, right?
Yeah, he pissed off Richard Childress pretty good with that one.
Oh,
yeah, which whatever.
Good.
But no, I would not be shocked to see Parker win at some point this year. So
I don't think it's out of the question, and it sounds like he's got a lot of attention there. And Dale was saying I'd like to see what he'd do in my equipment. He also mentioned Joe Gibbs' equipment as well, but. Yeah. I don't think he'd mention his own team if it wasn't something he was interested in pursuing.
And Parker's really young, too. He's only like early 20s. He's like a real skinny nerd kid. So
I saw a picture of him over the weekend. I think he was double fisting cherry Cokes or something. Cherry something.
Sounds about right.
I just remember seeing him in the pits at Darlington a couple years ago when I was in there. And like he wasn't in his fire suit yet. And his ankles... or his calves were like the fucking diameter of my wrist. Like he's just
little guy,
skinniest kid.
Checking out his ankles.
Yeah, he looks like one of those claymation figures from like those old Christian cartoons. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
With the dog. What was?
It's Art Clokey is the guy who created it. I forget the name of that cartoon, but same guy that did Gumby. So
yeah, looks like that
one. But yeah, I think. We got to talk about the train.
Kane's horn some more.
Oh.
Before we move on to the train.
Yeah.
Yes, Casey. Waltrip caused another wreck during the race, which allowed Casey to get his lap back finally. And then with like 15 to go, Daniel Dye wrecked, and Casey got caught up in that. But he still rebounded after all that bullshit with a 15th finish, and then after the DQ, a 14th. So
very good.
I'm hoping it motivates him to come back and run some more.
And he's clearly still got it. And as we've mentioned previously in the septic tank here, Casey has been doing pretty well in sprint cars too. So he seems to have a fire under his ass. It'd be nice to see him win something.
Yeah. And thanks to Kyle for sending me Casey Kane pics from the grandstands.
Nice.
Over the weekend. It's a good friend right there.
Yeah, very impressive run for Kane. There was an interview with him after the race where he was talking about how the car was junked, but it was still pretty fast over a short run, which worked for him in that race since there was a lot of short runs. But whenever they got into a little bit longer, like over 30 laps, it kind of went away from him, and he just had to like kind of chase it. But still, that car was... it was yard sailed pretty much, and they got it back out there. So very impressive from Casey.
Yeah. And we got to talk about the train. So Buddy didn't go on it, but Matt Weaver, who if you don't follow him on Twitter, you should, because he's a great independent journalist who not just covers NASCAR but a lot of short track stuff, and does a really, really good job.
He does.
But he took the train there and back, and all throughout the race, with all this stuff happening, red flags and all these cautions. We're like, I think everybody's like, you're not going to make the train, Matt. You're not going to do it. And he was like insistent. Like, I don't give a shit what I have to miss at the track to make that train.
Post-race.
He's like, yeah. And
the thing was, they were not delaying that train. It's not like the rally bus or something where it's an hour after the race. It's like, no, it's 7:10. You better be on this train or you're stuck down.
The state controls that.
Yeah.
The time, so.
The race didn't get over till like 7 o'clock, but somehow he made it. He tweeted from the train, so he did not get a whole lot of post-race coverage.
He didn't see the end of the race, though. He had to leave before the race ended to be able to make the race, because the race ended at 7:15 and the train was at 7:29 on the dot. So
okay.
What did you say it was because of freight and right away for the trains? Did you say that, or did I just imagine that?
You might have imagined that, but it's state run, so.
Oh, I see.
They had to stick to a schedule.
I got you. Yeah.
But yeah, it looked like they just kind of dropped them off in the woods by the track. It wasn't,
It was a temporary station apparently.
Yeah.
There's not a station in Rockingham, so they just built this platform. And apparently they gave people a commemorative die cast when they got on the car or on the train, and a couple other little goodies for taking the ride. It looked cool.
Completely blank, except for a North Carolina train logo on the hood.
Yep.
Trinket.
They probably just give those away at random times. Like, not
to
even,
children.
Yeah.
They got them left over from the 90s or whenever they ran that shit last.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I think it was a great return. I think it's great for the sport. It's great for the track. I would love to see Cup there at some point. I'm not going to say next year because, as was mentioned on social media, maybe wait till we get these short track and mile-ish track packages together before we bring Cup there. But as long as the other series, I definitely would like to make it there next year if they come back. So it's very cool. So
yeah, I already said it. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Buddy didn't take the train, but he did do us another favor.
Oh.
He licked the rock for us like he promised.
Yeah, he did. Right. Yeah, I hope he went to his doctor to get his body checked out after putting his tongue up on that thing. Man.
Didn't piss on the Corey Lajoie etching though, so I'm a little disappointed.
He looked near it, so.
Yeah. Ugh. Yeah. Yeah, go see your doctor, buddy. All manner of
say, Rob, that's way more important than that.
No, I was just going to reiterate how happy I am to see a racetrack open again, and to have such a resounding vote of confidence from the fans to pack it out on Easter weekend for an Xfinity race.
Yeah.
And for the racing to, all the wrecks aside and bullshit aside, it was a really entertaining and good weekend of racing. And I'm just happy to see that place back. I don't even care if Cup goes back. I'm all for the independent Busch Series, Xfinity Series, whatever weekends here and there at places that Cup will never touch. So if they want to do that that's fine.
I mentioned that on Twitter. They need to go back to that, and like it was in the 80s and 90s, where do a couple tracks that are just make them within a few hours of where Cup is. So if drivers and fans want to do both, they can. But you talk about attendance and stuff like that at these, trucks and Xfinity races. Like, if you do it at a 3/8 mile short track, you're going to get 3 times as many fans as you are showing up wherever Cup is.
Oh, yeah.
Guaranteed.
I'll tell you, when they brought SRX to Stafford that first year, I've never seen it that packed. Packed to the fucking gills, and that's a track that could do it. Honestly, it's they got safer barriers, they got everything the Truck Series would need, or the Xfinity Series would need to put on a show there. And I think that helps grow it. You can go see a top tier NASCAR series at a place that's a little bit closer and probably more affordable than it will be to have to drive all the way to wherever the fuck Cup's racing. So I'm all for that. But either way, just glad it's back, and I hope that sticks around for a long time. Seems like it will.
Yeah. Moving on to notes. We did have a couple more people in the racing world pass this past week. Mike Chase, who was the 1994 Winston West champ, but also Dr. Jerry Petty, who just passed away either yesterday or today. Now, Jerry, again, he was a neurosurgeon who had a lot of involvement in motorsports. I know he was one of the doctors that worked on Ernie Irvin when his wreck, and tons of other guys, you name it. Anybody who had a head injury at some point saw him, from the 80s up till now. So, big loss. But, he also was 95. So
yeah, but a huge legacy there. Made the sport of auto racing a better place. Mm-hmm. And a quick note on Mike Chase. Again, as Brian already said, as a Winston West champion. Also the only Winston West competitor to make the Brickyard 400 field in its inaugural year.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, it was run as a combined race. That's why there was 400 cars there trying to qualify for that. And that was in his championship season, 94. And he actually notched a Winston West win by finishing 42nd for being best in class. So helped him win the championship. But yeah, he was a legendary West Coast racer. Worked with AJ Foyt. Ran his stock car program in NASCAR for a long time. And worked for a bunch of other teams, Wood Brothers, Penske, etc. Just a lifer in the sport, and it's sad to see him gone.
Yeah. More sad news. We just passed what would have been Greg Moore's 50th birthday.
Yep.
Greg Moore was a up-and-coming IndyCar star in the 90s and probably would have had an amazing career had it not been cut short at what track?
It was Fontana.
Fontana, yeah. So...
that was one of the ones I watched on TV live that really it was tough. I mean, it was in that era, you kind of knew what you were looking at, and safety wasn't quite what it is now.
Yeah.
This is pre-Hans device, pre-soft walls, pre-everything, and it was bad. And yeah, as you said, Greg Moore was going to be a star. He had signed with Penske already for the 2000 season, but unfortunately that did not happen because he passed away. That's a tough deal for IndyCar fans in those days. And his legacy still lives on. Anytime there's a Canadian driver out there, they're all repping Greg Moore. He was he inspired a generation of folks for sure. Yeah. And that was a tough one. But hey, that's Helio Castroneves. I don't know if he's ever publicly done it, but he really ought to mention Greg Moore's name a little bit more, because he wouldn't have had his ride at Penske if it wasn't for that. So old 4-time there. Needs to pay respect. That's actually a legitimate problem I have with Helio Castroneves that I'm laying out there. But yeah, Greg was a star, and he was gone too soon. But
yeah. On to some much better news.
Yeah, let's flip the table, folks. It's happened.
So
on the same day as the Pope died, we received this miracle, and I'm convinced he's due for sainthood as a result of this.
Well, it hasn't been officially announced yet, but I think it's all but guaranteed that next year the NASCAR series finale, that's all 3 series, is going to be returning to Homestead. As was mentioned in Jordan Bianchi's article, this was probably going to be announced at the Homestead race a few weeks ago, but things weren't quite ironed out yet.
We talked about it on the show already. It's not exactly breaking news, but
yeah, and it's not. They're still not totally ironed out yet, apparently. But it's been said that if the financials aren't where they need to be with the track and the city, NASCAR will do what they need to financially to make up the difference. And it also sounds like we're going to be going to some sort of rotating schedule. But it's still, everything's up in the air, because we don't know if the format for the championship itself is going to change. But it sounds like every year, at least the finale, and accompanying races will switch up a little bit.
Great news. Yeah.
That's great news. Phoenix sucks, and it's still going to be involved in the championship in some way, whether it be the finale at some point or one of the races leading up to it. But Homestead is going to be such a better track to do the finale next year.
Absolutely.
Very excited for that. Also, the 2026 NASCAR Hall of Fame inductee list was announced, and
it's a good one.
The good one. The newest names, we've got Greg Biffle. I think he's a new one. Kurt Busch and Randy Lajoie. Are the
How about that?
Additions.
How about Randy, huh?
Yeah.
What'd he do?
I was disappointed. I posted that clip of Benny Parsons talking about Randy sticking around in the Busch series that we watched last week. I posted that on Twitter. It didn't really get the engagement I thought it would, because I thought it was very fitting that Randy, he had plenty of success everywhere but Cup, but he's nominated for the Hall of Fame now, and his kid is still content doing one-offs in shitty cars because he has an
Freedom
ego.
500.
Yeah, he's got an ego the size of his dad's trophy case without the trophies. So
yeah, the 2-time Busch champion. He's tore it up on the Busch North up here. Definitely a deserved spot, even if he doesn't ever get it. His name does need to be in this conversation. Lots of other good guys who deserve to be in it. This is a tight one. It was kind of tough. I already voted on this, by the way. I immediately had to go place my votes, which I'll share in a second here. But Neil Bonnet, of course, on here. Tim Brewer, Randy Dorton, Hendrick engine builder who died in the plane crash in 2004. Suitcase Jake Elder's in there. Harry Gant. Ray Hendrick, who should already be in there, in my opinion. Harry Hyde, which I'm surprised he hasn't been inducted already as well. And Jack Sprague, I think, was another new one here, as well as Banjo Matthews, Bob Wellborn. Yeah, just, this is a tough one. All of these guys deserve to have their names etched on the wall there for sure.
Yeah.
But I couldn't place my vote fast enough today for Handsome Harry. Of course, I want to see Harry Gant get in there while he's still alive. A lot of the older dudes have passed already, and I want to see Harry get his what he deserves.
Flowers.
His flowers. That's it. Yes, flowers. That was the word I was looking for. I also placed a vote for Larry Phillips, probably the greatest short track racer that no one's ever heard of. During the 90s, in his stretch racing the NASCAR Weekly Series, he won 75% of the races he entered. And even though he's not a Cup champion or even a truck champion, I think he deserves to be in the conversation, deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Mark Martin thinks that too, so you know he's right. And then, of course, I had to smash that fucking button for Randy Lajoie, baby. I want to see this happen. Come on. And I want to start the official campaign to get Randy Lajoie into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. So go to the website, NASCARHall.com, and you can place your votes there. I think Kurt Busch is probably going to be the one who gets it.
Yeah, I mean, he deserves it for sure.
I saw a bunch of internet chatter about people saying that Greg Biffle deserves to be voted in solely for the fact that he provided all that relief to Hurricane Helene victims recently. And I'm like, that's great. He deserves recognition for that. But that, in my opinion, doesn't warrant you a guaranteed immediate vote into the NASCAR Hall of Fame.
I mean, Greg
he'll
deserves
end up
it
there anyway.
Yeah.
For his own racing accolades, but
yeah, I don't think it hurts to mention that, and I think he does deserve to be in the Hall of Fame as well. Again, he's got a bunch of championships and should have had a Cup championship, honestly. But I just gotta forego all of that for Randy fucking Lajoie.
I thought it was funny that Randy gets announced right after we just had a sellout 30,000 Xfinity weekend.
Yep.
When Corey bitched him on that he didn't want to race in front of 12 people on Saturdays. Like, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, let's
Team Randy, even though he doesn't like us.
No, he doesn't like us. But the campaign starts now. Like I said, this isn't just spite. I do think he belongs in there. Anytime I've said that Randy deserves in the Hall of Fame, I truly mean it. But if not now, when, folks? Come on, let's make this happen.
Listen, Randy, I know you don't like us talking shit on your kid. Maybe if you raised a kid that was more humble and actually performed rather than just fucking inflating his own ego and saying he deserves a ride when he's done nothing to fucking deserve it, it wouldn't be an issue. But
Randy's a chill guy. I like Randy. I've met him a couple times, and he didn't like me, but I definitely enjoy being around him. So he's a cool guy. Hall of Famer Randy Lajoie. Let's fucking go, please.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got longtime ARCA stalwarts Venturina Racing got sold to Nitro
Motorsports. Yeah, it's very strange.
I don't know anything. I oddly enough, I have a handful of Venturini Racing championship plaques that I got from that GM estate sale last year. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with them, but I have like 3 of those. So if anybody wants one, send a message.
Yeah. Very strange. I guess Nitro is going to continue, or they're going to pick up the torch from Venturini as being one of the lead Toyota teams, which I guess it makes sense. But yeah, I can't say I saw this coming, but it certainly, maybe I'm projecting here, but it kind of paints a light on the financials of ARCA. If a longtime team with all that Toyota support is going to back out and sell, that's not necessarily a great look for the series when it's one of the 2 or 3 teams that can actually bring real race cars to the track. So, yeah, I don't know. Very surprised by this.
Yeah. Let's see. The Indy Open test, because we're just about ready to start the march to the Indy 500. Yep. That's going to be streamed. So is it tomorrow and Thursday?
If you're listening to this right now on Wednesday, it's probably on right now on YouTube, and it's going to be on Thursday as well. The unofficial start to the month of May, even though it's still April. But yeah, everyone's getting their shit shaken down and getting ready for Indy. Kyle Larson's going to be out there, of course. Everyone who's trying to enter the race is going to be out there, and it's just a bunch of testing. And I said this last year. There's nothing I love more than just putting my TV on and just having Indy on there for 8 hours at a time. So hopefully the weather cooperates, and I have something other than texting you guys to distract me for the entirety of my workday tomorrow. I'm very excited about it. So it's here, folks, the month of May.
Well, in 10 days or whatever, but
it's here.
Who's counting?
It's right now.
let's see here. And then I missed this, and I wish you would have told me about this before looking at the notes. Worlds collide for Uncle Rob. Meshuggah and Mudvayne were guests at the NHRA 4-Wide Nationals in Las Vegas and were interviewed on air.
Yeah, they were. It was awesome. I saw it today because Meshuggah posted it on their Instagram page, and I'm a huge fan of Meshuggah. Not so much Mudvayne. But
I was a big fan of Mudvayne back in the day.
Yeah,
my teenage years.
Meshuggah's one of my favorite bands. I love them so much, and to see that crossover was awesome. If anyone who's ever been to an NHRA event knows, it's a full-on overload, sight, sound, smells. There's nothing like it in the motorsports world, and I don't know if these guys are car guys or not, but they definitely were very impressed with just the violence of the machinery. And honestly, Meshuggah songs kind of sound like a Top Fuel dragster sometimes, so it worked out. And it's anytime you get to see those dudes on television is awesome. So excellent crossover. I loved it. Let's get these guys out to fucking Eldora or something so I can pester them.
Yeah.
Was the Mudvayne guy wearing face paint?
No, he definitely looked like he was in Mudvayne though.
Well, yeah, and hey, Meshuggah's on the last legs of their tour with Cannibal Corpse right now. If you want to go check them out.
Hell yeah!
Hell of a show.
Let's see, and then I guess this is the last. I don't even know what to call this.
I don't even know where this came from.
Listen,
Facebook exploded over the weekend.
We've maybe mentioned this before, but there's a lot of AI slop on Facebook. I mean, non-AI slop is Weaver Valley Speedway and Salina 52 and all that stuff. But there's also been these clickbait, sites from India or whatever that just come up with ridiculous fucking headlines and photos.
The one extra sloppy lately.
Yeah, the one that kind of set the fire here was a series of AI photos of Kyle Larson with an old woman and him crying.
She looks extremely like Queen Elizabeth.
She looks just like Queen Elizabeth.
Two different old women in those pictures.
So the caption for that is, after winning the Food City 500, Kyle Larson took the world by surprise when he gave a meaningful gift to an 80-year-old woman who works in his home and came to cheer him on despite being sick. His emotional gesture will leave you speechless.
My favorite of these is the old woman standing by a catch fenceless racetrack.
And then there was another one.
Not to be outdone by Kyle Larson, Dale Jr. Also was very philanthropic.
A boy in Africa sent a letter, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. flew halfway around the world to do the unexpected thing that made his village cry.
It's just a couple of pictures of Dale Earnhardt Jr. in Africa, and I think that one on the bottom right is real. Is that a real photo?
Yeah, that's definitely a real photo.
That's just him at a fucking Charlotte FC game. Yeah.
And there was another one that didn't make it onto the notes, and I've actually seen like 2 or 3 variations of this where it's like Chase Elliott just adopts a baby. Like someone has a baby, and like they can't take care of it. Their baby gets abandoned or something, and Chase, I'll take care of it.
A newborn baby was abandoned just 5 hours ago. In response to this heartbreaking situation, NASCAR driver Chase Elliott stepped in to become the child's guardian, pledging to cover all living expenses until the child turns 18. It's just him in the hospital in his fire suit holding a newborn baby.
Oh, that's amazing. That's so a lot better than the Morgan Shepherd giving birth photos that we tried to create earlier in the year. But this does lead us into our DARF of the Week segment. My DARF of the Week is anybody out there who thought these were real. And there was a lot of them. Yeah. Never said that Kyle Larson fans were smart. I'm certainly not, but I guess I'm one of the smarter ones because the original post with Larson taking Queen Elizabeth to the Food City 500 was posted on a group called Kyle Larson Fans. And a lot of the reactions were either expressing how much they loved it or how sweet they thought it was, or that, yeah, this is AI, guys. You guys are fucking idiots. But some of my favorite comments here, Sandy Hulsenbeck says, "This is so very special," with a heart. And then a guy named Larry Jelson says, "It's all a publicity stunt. That's all it is, just to make them look good." But yeah.
Piggybacking off this a little bit, though, there was another thing that came out in the last couple of days that I think a lot of people fell for. there was an email that supposedly was put up by Talladega Speedway banning anyone from wearing any number 8 gear.
That was pretty good. That was
weekend.
convincing.
Yeah, and I think even Landon Castle might have been bit by this too. But that's not real, folks. No, nobody's gonna keep you from wearing any Dale Jr. shirts.
I think I saw there was like people on Facebook in an uproar that were banding together to all wear nothing but the number 8 to Talladega this weekend, just as resistance. So
that'd be genius marketing. Genius marketing by either Dale Jr. or Kyle Busch, if that were true.
Mm-hmm. So
cool. Well, that wraps up that segment. So now we're off to the septic tank, and Rob's got a bunch to talk about. Before we do, I want to just get this out of the way real quick. So it was announced. I caught this on Facebook today, and I am very, very excited about this. And unfortunately, I probably won't be able to go, but I'll be watching it no matter what. So Bridgeport Speedway, New Jersey, they host the Sportsman, what the hell is it, championships or whatever. Like it's a big sports, like, modified sportsman race, championship series. And for the race, it's the second weekend of October. Obviously it's going to be a normal race, but what's different is they're offering $10,000 not to win. So you'll get $7,000 to win, $5,000 for second, but third place is getting $10,000. So I don't think this has ever been done in like a real race. I'm sure somebody's probably done something like this in some fucking street stock race or something wherever, but I've never seen a 100-lap championship feature race do something like this. And I just don't know how it's going to work out, but I definitely plan on watching it. I hope it's on, Dirt Vision or Flow or whatever. But
I think Bridgeport's usually on Dirt Vision.
Dirt Vision. Okay, good to know.
I think.
So yeah, I'm very excited. I mean, any modified news is will perk my ear up, but this is.
I said to you guys earlier today, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard, but I cannot wait to watch this.
Yeah, it's going to be something for sure. So. But yeah, I needed to get that little tidbit out before we dive deeper into this.
It is certainly an oddity in a sea of oddities this week. Definitely a wild weekend and a very vast weekend of short track racing. And I was there to see a good amount of it. Of course, the Thompson Icebreaker had their second night. It took them 3 weeks to get it in, but they finally did it, goddammit. They were at Thompson on Wednesday last week for the Icebreaker 150 for the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour, with a couple other divisions there. The Sunoco Modifieds local track. I think they wiped out half the field in the first lap of one of the heat races, so that was cool. It was very cold, so I sat in the car for most of that with the heat on because I've had enough of being cold. There was a street stock race, the second one of the Icebreaker weekend. They do a doubleheader for this. If you'll remember my last trip to Thompson, they actually parked the entire street stock feature for rough driving. And this continued into the Wednesday portion of the program when probably the most egregious thing I've ever seen at a racetrack with my own two eyes. So Ryan Waterman is a street stock guy around here. He's very fast. He's very aggressive. And he tends to wreck his own shit and other people's shit all the time. But he wins, and I'm not a Ryan Waterman fan at all. I don't like him. I think he's a dickhead. But, as people say, it's an electric show to watch when he's out there. This other guy, Corey Fanning, who also has been part to other racetracks around New England and been suspended for doing dumb fuck shit like he did to Ryan Waterman on Wednesday night. The two of these guys are kind of getting into it. Waterman's doing his usual aggressive thing. Corey Fanning, I guess, is tired of it or whatever, and they're beating and banging and going into turn one at Thompson, which I don't know if you guys have ever seen this racetrack if you're listening to this, but it's a very fast, very bumpy, just kind of weird oval with very high banks. And right at the worst possible spot, entering turn one, Corey Fanning just straight turns the wheel left and right hooks Ryan Waterman head on into the wall. The sound was awful. The 500 people that were there all gasped. It was really bad. Ryan climbs out of the car and immediately just kind of sinks down, and the place goes quiet. And it turns out he had a broken sternum, some bruised ribs, some other issues. They took him to the local hospital, and they actually life-flighted him to the hospital here in Worcester.
God damn.
He just got out a couple days ago, and fuck Corey Fanning. I don't care who it is. Again, not a Ryan Waterman fan by any means. You could even say that, he probably deserves to be roughed up a little bit, but not like this, and especially not at a place like Thompson. That racetrack can kill people, and it has. And they've parked Corey Fanning for the entire season, and then some at Thompson. It's an indefinite suspension from pass and act. And he also can't step foot on the property of any other racetrack that the PASS Tour, American Canadian Tour, are running indefinitely, which is that's good, because fuck that guy. And he deserves everything he gets out of this one. And he was on Facebook trying to say that Waterman faded down on him and all that, but then there's very clear video because all these cars have GoPros on them. It's fucking 2025. I forget who it was, but there's a guy behind me. You can see him just juke to the left and send Waterman up in the fence, and that's just fucking unacceptable at a place like Thompson. And again, I'm going to be talking out of both sides of my mouth during this segment, because we're going to talk about Bowman Gray a little bit and how much I enjoyed that shit. But at Thompson... It's unacceptable, and I'm gonna post a link to Ryan's GoFundMe in the show notes here on Spotify or wherever you listen to us. If you got a few bucks, toss him his way. He's got a long recovery ahead of him. He's going to be out of the race car for a very long time. A sternum is not something that just fuses back together. And let's not do that at real fast racetracks. And if you're gonna do it, don't do it at the fastest part of the racetrack, please. You're a fucking idiot if you do. But anyway. On to the big show, the Wheel of Modified Tour. Race was fucking awesome. Big car count. I think there were 29 cars there. A few didn't make it to the show just because of it being on a Wednesday, and everyone was getting ready for either testing at Stafford or the show up in New Hampshire over the weekend. Actually, I don't know if that's true, because out of the 7 cars there, I think all of them were at Thompson too. And also the Race of Champions series out of Mahoning Valley over the weekend. There's a few guys who didn't make it, but great race. Ron Silk put on a not quite the clinic he did in the tri-track race from the first day of the Icebreaker, but he ended up winning the race. Lots of varying strategies. Austin Beers was very fast all night and chose an alternate tire strategy. He decided to kind of split the difference between the race and take 3 tires across 2 stops right in the middle, which set him far back in the field. And watching him come through and get the win or get third place finish, was very exciting to watch. I don't know if that made the broadcast or not, but it was badass to watch him cut through the field, and I enjoyed the shit out of it. Again, Thompson, as always, great racetrack. It was a shame that not that many people were there, but the few, the proud, the loyal, and the cold were all there. All 500 or 1,000 of us or whatever were there to support. And anytime the doors are open to that racetrack, you can most likely find me there, because there's not many places like it out there. Speaking of Austin Beers, he picked up a big Race of Champions win at Mahoning Valley on Saturday, and he punched his ticket for the big Race of Champions finale at Thompson Speedway during the World Series weekend. So that's exciting stuff right there. But that wasn't all the racing I went to this weekend. A mere 4 days later, even though it felt like it was weeks apart, I went to the Northeast Classic up at Loudon. I mentioned I might not go to this just because it might rain, and I just went to the racetrack, and it was supposed to be nice down here, and I got yard work to do, but 10 o'clock rolled around, and I was like, fuck this, I'm going up there, and then immediately hopped in the car and made it up there just in time for the last couple of qualifying heats to wrap up for the truck series.
How long of a drive is that for you?
It's about an hour and 45 minutes. It's not too bad, yeah. I made it there just in time. Quick note about New Hampshire. They're now selling Johnny Bootlegger up there. So I stopped in to get some Zins. Took a quick look at
That's where you got it.
The old liquor cabinet. And sure enough, there's a bunch of bootleggers in there. So I cleaned them out and had a couple and enjoyed myself at it's pretty well attended, I would say, for Loudon. There's probably a couple thousand people there, which is pretty good for a show that's kind of packed between a bunch of major shows. But still, it's a NASCAR facility that holds like 65,000 people, so you kind of feel like you're the only person there. And especially without all the overbearing NASCAR security, it feels kind of lawless. You can kind of bring whatever you want in, kind of do whatever you want. There's no guardrails up to keep you from the fence, so you can take badass photos and videos, which I'll post. And the racing is pretty
fence down for your grandma.
Yeah, so grandma can see Kyle Larson a little bit better.
We didn't even mention this in the ARCA race. The photographer taking the photo on on pit row while racing was happening on the track.
Standing
That
in
happened?
the middle of pit
Yeah, you didn't see
lane.
that?
No, what the fuck?
Oh yeah, she was like straight in the middle of pit lane while cars were active on the track.
Lawless.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a great show. Again, the PASS Tour was up there, American Canadian Tour. There was an open modified show and a couple other divisions up there. It was a great time. Derek Griffith won the PASS race. I was very excited to see that. Big fan of DG12. He's had kind of a rough year and a half. Had struggled through some illness. Got the wrecked out of him at the Classic either last year or a couple years ago. And he's had some rough luck in the race car, but it was nice to see him get back on top. Eddie McDonald and Johnny Clark, second and third, put on one hell of a show to finish that up, but they were just way too far off Derek's pace to do anything about it. The Pro Trucks, that was a fun race. Randy Burr and the 2 Truck beat Ryan Kuhn, but guess what? The number 2 curse prevails, and he got DQ'd, heading the win to Ryan Kuhn. The American Canadian Tour was fun, too. No one had anything for Gabe Brown all day. Tom Carey, the third, he was up there for maybe the first third of the race, but Gabe was just way too fast, and he drove away with it. The modified feature, unfortunately, only had 7 cars, mostly due to the fact that people were either in Mahoning Valley or they were testing at Stafford for the Spring Sizzler. But John McKinney picked up $7,000 for beating 6 other cars, and it was still a pretty good show, despite the fact there was none of them. And there was a street stock feature too, but I didn't watch that. I had to get home. I had a birthday party to get to, so. And Ryan Waterman wasn't there to put on a show, so what am I going to watch? Anyway, speaking of egregious shit, let's talk about Bowman Gray a little bit. They opened up their 2025 season with the Hayes Jewelers 200 big modified event. Brandon Ward moved Burt Myers after Burt Myers led 199 laps, and Brandon just shipped them, which is part and parcel for Bowman Gray Racing. It was a perfectly acceptable move. A lot of people on the internet getting upset about it, but that's how they race there, and honestly, that was pretty clean for Bowman Gray, so I will accept it. And Burt Myers wasn't pissed about it either. But the real shit here, it was in the was it the street stock feature? Yeah. I don't even know who won this fucker. I don't care. Into the race.
No one knows.
I don't even know what caused this. But so down in the basement here, I got 2 TVs set up, right? One's usually got whatever dirt racing I'm watching, late models, sprint cars, and the other one's got whatever asphalt shit I've got going on. And Bowman Gray was on the other TV, and I look up, and I see someone just, the race is over, they're kind of slowing down. These 2 guys are not happy with each other. It's Bowman Gray, it's to be expected. And much like you expect at Bowman Gray, one guy kind of swerves in front of the other one. The 2 guys are Zach Staley and Justin Alverson. I don't know which one's which. I apologize. It doesn't matter. And this guy didn't like getting swerved on, so he just completely rips the front clip off of his race car by slamming into the back and side of this other car, which of course pisses the other guy off, and he gets out, and he wants to fight, gets tackled by security, stands back up, slicks his hair back, and does this little hip jiggle thing. Just talking shit.
I think that's Zach.
That is Zach, yeah, that's Zach Staley. And then a big fight breaks out. There's a fucking photographer down there who gets involved and takes a couple pictures and puts it.
A child that runs up too at some point, gets in the middle of it.
Yeah.
He might have been 13, but still, a underage child was in the middle of the fight as well.
Yeah, and we'll obviously post a video of this if you haven't seen it already. But the sad thing about Bowman Gray is that this is the only time it gets attention outside of the little bubble that it exists in. And it is kind of embarrassing, but it is fucking hilarious. Electric call from Matthew Dillner in the booth with that fight. What do they call it? The dog pile of emotions is what he said? Yeah, good shit.
Listening to him call these things, after getting to know him outside of this, it's so funny to me.
I know, it's great, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, lots of people just, ragging on Bowman Gray and all that. And my advice to you is just don't watch it. Don't...
Yeah.
You know what you're going to get. Half of you fuckers don't even have a Flow account anyway. You're just bitching about it. So you don't have to watch this. If you have Flow, there's 38 other things going on. Let Bowman Gray be. Again, I know double standards, but different racetracks have different rules, and Bowman Gray has its own set. It's not for everybody. You don't have to watch if you don't like it. Shut the fuck up.
They've got NASCAR safer barriers now. They can do whatever they want.
Did you see that, Brian?
I mean, I saw the fight. I didn't watch any of the race.
Yeah. It was pretty good. I enjoyed it. Anyway, over on the dirt side of things, World of Outlaws and Lucas both had the weekend off, so all those guys kind of dispersed to different series throughout the Midwest and the South. The Midwest Auto Racing Series late models were at Cedar County, and they were at 34 Raceway for the Slocum 50. Brandon Shepard won at Cedar County on the 17th, and viewers were subjected to the most dog shit camera angle I've ever seen in a broadcast. It's like they weren't even at the top of the fucking grandstands. Like, I'll post a screenshot of. Yeah, it was like like the cameraman got there late, and that's the best they could do.
Was staring at two fucking poles.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. Like you can't get a cherry picker on the. I know these short tracks, they all kind of produce their own broadcasts, you know, and they have budget limitations. And the Mars Tour is not exactly the top of the pile when it comes to late model racing, but. You know, they seem to do it right at 34 Raceway. I can see everything there. But so I would suggest maybe go to United Rentals and pick something up, like use Ryan Preece's code or whatever to get 20% off. I don't fucking know. Do something.
Yeah, stand on one of these trailers in the background.
Seriously. The whole back stretch is empty. Other than, like, you can stand on one of those trailers back there. I don't need to see it from, you know, Papa's fucking third row seat. Or the handicap section or whatever.
Next to the catch fence.
Yeah, it was bad. But yeah, Brandon Shepard, a great run for him in the Rocket 1 team. Actually, I'm sorry, that was the family car. It wasn't the Rocket 1. But yeah, Brandon Shepard winning a lot of races right now, and the people rejoiced. Bobby Pierce absolutely spanked him at 34 over the weekend. Carson Ferguson almost got the win on Saturday night for the Slocum 50. He got the pole. Looked like a great weekend for him, and it ended up being a great weekend because he got second. But Pierce was kind of run away with that race until they caught lap traffic, and Carson was able to get right up on his ass, and he almost got by, but then Bobby just sent it all the way to space on the high side and was able to rip around, an incredible move, and picked up the win there. That racetrack is badass, and that race was awesome. I think it was the Flow Racing race of the week as well, so those highlights are posted everywhere on YouTube. I recommend you check it out. Meanwhile, down south, the Southern Spring Nationals were going on. Ricky Weiss won at I-75, and Turbo Tyler Erb picked up a win at Tazewell. You ever seen this racetrack, Tazewell? It's a little bull ring that looks like it has 60-degree banking. It's so fucking fast. It literally looks like Weber Valley if it was a real place, but it's super fast. I've been told that it doesn't race as well as it once did, but it's still incredibly fast, and it's badass to watch. I mean, these guys look like they're completely sideways on a wall. What's that thing called at the State Fair, the Gravitron?
Oh, yeah, the Wheel of Death.
Yeah, it looks like that. But it was a great race. And Tyler picking up $21,000 for his efforts there, and a fire suit that looks like a guy wearing overalls with the ass hanging out. Good stuff. Over on the 410 side of things, the World of Outlaws made their first trip to Knoxville. Friday was canceled due to fog or wind or some shit. I think it was wind or combination. I don't know. It was weather. But Saturday night was a great show. Rico Abreu picked up a thrilling win over Kyle Larson. Larson, I think he started from like 9th or something like that. Was able to work his way through the field and get around a lot of big dogs. Not a great look for the World of Outlaws to have, I think it was 8 of 10 guys in the top 10 are not full-time World of Outlaws competitors. They're all high limit guys or just true outlaws who just kind of pick and choose whatever they want. So probably not what you want to see, but a nice little appetizer for the Knoxville Nationals in a few months. And Brian, you were saying this, like Larson probably would have had Rico if he hadn't have bobbled on the berm.
Yeah. I mean, he what was it, 2 laps to go, or maybe the last lap, but he got on the inside berm in turn 1 and 2, and that kind of fucked up his run. I mean, he still almost got him, but I think if he hadn't screwed up like that, he would have had him. That was a killer race.
It was badass, yeah. And again, Knoxville always puts on a show, and we're in for a treat. That's right, 360 Nationals, right?
Which I'm bummed. He talked about that in his post-race interview, that he wasn't sure if he's going to run it yet. He said, he made it seem like he's going to, but he's like, we got to figure out logistics. But I hope he does, because I'm sure I'll have other chances to see him in a sprint car this year, but I always enjoy that.
Yeah, seriously. And just a great show. I was fired up after that. Again, another great night as far as like all the A mains kind of lining up in a way where you could just flip over. After one finished, there was another one that was either starting or had just started. So it was just nonstop badass racing all night long, especially coming off a return to Rockingham. It was a good day to be a short track or a NASCAR or racing fan in general on Saturday. A couple of notes, or just one note, I guess, because we already talked about Bridgeport. Cale Thomas is already out at Shark Racing after 3 races. Of course, he replaced Jacob Allen in the 1A. He yard sailed it twice out of the 3 races he ran, and those guys don't like that, so he's already gone. About the only thing he did this weekend in the 1A was make people like Danny Dietrich. He flipped, caught on fire, then Danny immediately stopped his car. Of course, Danny Dietrich, polarizing guy, talks a lot of shit. But he was the first one. He got there before the safety crew did. He immediately stopped his car, ran over, and pulled Cale out of the wreckage. So good job, Danny Dietrich. Really appreciate that, and definitely got some brownie points from the 410 world. But yeah, Cale Thomas looking for a job. I don't know who's going to be in the 1A from here on out. Who's got money for this? But go big. Let's get Christopher Bell to run Knoxville in the 1A. Let's see that shit. Come on. I mean, Kreitz isn't coming out there. He's not running the 69K. So make some moves, guys. Please. I'd love to see Christopher Bell drive their 1A. It's probably not going to happen. It's probably like Zeb Wise or somebody like that, which is also good. But yeah, that's a rough go. And he's already out. Posted a video on the internet thanking Jesus first and foremost, and then kind of explaining away why he's not driving for Shark anymore. But it is what it is. There's a good amount of short track racing coming up this weekend. USAC is at Kokomo for 2 nights. That's always a great show. Lucas Oil's back at Georgetown and Hagerstown. World of Outlaw late models are going to be at Talladega short track. Truelove, you going?
We are planning on going Saturday night as long as the weather prevails. So
hell yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed indeed. The World of Outlaw sprint cars are at Jacksonville and Hobstadt. Cars Tour is going to be at Orange County. By the way, Ryan Newman just announced that he's going to be running that race in the Piercy family number 7. And then the greatest race in the history of spring, the Stafford Spring Sizzler, is this Sunday. Also with the local program, local divisions, SKs, and all that kicking off on Saturday. I don't think I'm going to be able to make this one, unfortunately. It's a huge bummer. That's one of the best events of the year in New England, and it's a great show. Even if you're not anywhere close to this, it is being broadcast on Flow Racing, and I highly recommend tuning in. This is one of the crown jewel modified events up here in New England and anywhere for that matter, and it's going to be a hell of a show. My money's on Ron Silk. He's just too good right now, and he's definitely on the entry list, so kind of hard to bet against him. But yeah, anybody who's anybody except for Justin Bonsignor is going to be there because he doesn't really run anything outside of the tour. And it'll be good, and hopefully I find a way to make it there. But that's it for the septic tank this week. We're going to go ahead and flush it down and get into one of my favorite video of the week segments we ever had, I think. Whoosh. By the way, I heard that Rockingham, there's still pissers where you just piss against the wall. So it's not.
I sent that, didn't I?
Yeah, I was going to say, I sent the group chat, yeah.
Yeah, glad to see that.
Disgusting.
That's a rare one right there.
I was appalled.
All right. Well, I should say one appalling thing actually that happened. Speaking of this video, so this is one of many videos done by Brock Beard, which we've talked about on the show before. Brock. Before we get to the actual video, so Brock made the trip all the way from California to Rockingham to go to the race, and he drove. This is full road trip.
Yeah.
And he was denied credentials to cover the race for his YouTube channel.
Bullshit.
Which that's whatever. But the letter that he was sent in being rejected was very insulting, and whoever's in charge of PR there at the track should be fired because it was just someone who clearly does not pay attention to media outside of TV coverage because, aside from this series, I mean, Brock does so many good pieces on the history of NASCAR and, highlighting independent drivers and forgotten moments. And also, with modern NASCAR, he's the only guy covering whoever finishes last in the race, which is, kind of a trivial thing, but also just something no one covers. So, for him to be denied media credentials in such an insulting way was pretty infuriating.
Yeah,
so,
that's bullshit. Was it the track or was it NASCAR that denied him?
I thought it was the track, but I don't know. I didn't catch that in his tweet. But
either way, I've heard some pretty. I won't name names of who told me this, but I've heard some pretty similar things regarding the way NASCAR handles their media credentials. And if you're not just sucking them off, you probably won't get a job, or you probably won't get credentials or whatever.
Yeah, we'll never get there.
Oh, fuck no.
And I know.
There's no way.
I know. Some of my friends who have had issues with credentials over the past, even though they, are legit journalists. But just that sucked. But
and Brock is who you'd want. You know, out of all the YouTubers out there who get fucking credentials, Vanilla Wafers, again, not to mention his name. I finally got it right. Yeah, laying some respect, but old fucking big hat there. If he can get into the pits,
I'm so bummed he didn't come back at me after I called him out that way. Like
Did you watch all his videos to see if you got a shout out?
No, I
didn't.
I'm not gonna fucking do that.
Do not engage.
Yeah.
But yeah, Brock's the man.
Series about you.
Brock's the man. He deserves
Come at me, motherfucker. Yeah. Let's see what happens. But anyways, onto the actual video of the week. So this was the first part of a 3-part documentary-ish on the history of Cartoon Network and their sponsorship in NASCAR. And like Rob told me the other night we were talking about this, like as soon as you're done watching this first part, you're gonna want to watch the other 2, which I need to. But this is the shortest of the 3, and also just kind of covers the origins of everything. So it was a great video. So the video itself kind of starts off, there has to be some exposition stuff with these types of videos. And it kind of talks about, he opens up with a little bit of just the progression of sponsorship from the 70s and 80s up until the 90s when, leading up to the 80s, the majority of sponsors in NASCAR were beer, tobacco, and automotive products, generally stuff geared just towards adult men. In the 80s, it started to open up to more consumer goods, and not just, not just beer and tobacco, but, Tide, Folgers, that type of stuff. Whereas the 90s, again, as the sport continued to grow, more and more unique sponsors kind of joined the fold. And, before they got into the Cartoon Network part, he brought up the Family Channel's sponsorship in NASCAR, which they first joined. They initially sponsored what was Alan Kawicki's team after Jeff Bodine bought them out and sponsored a handful of races for them, and that led to them sponsoring Jack Roush and Ted Musgrave full time next year in the beautiful 16 car. But basically, the beginning of the video, first he talks about how the Family Channel got involved in the sport and how it was originally a spinoff of the Christian Broadcast Network of Pat Robertson, which I didn't know. Yeah. And kind of gets into that and why they joined NASCAR, and that's all well and good. But
and this is all in the first 4 or 5 minutes of the video too. And again, just to suck Brock off some more and how good he is at making this content and providing this information. You learn the history of basically that type of cable television and how all this entered the sport to set the stage in such a short amount of time, and you actually are able to retain it. Yeah, fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's very insightful in that sense. But from there, we talk about the origins of Cartoon Network itself. So, if you weren't aware, Cartoon Network is a Turner Broadcasting network. Ted Turner, TBS, TNT, CNN, all these different TV stations. He was basically one of the guys who helped get cable TV off the ground. And in the 80s, he bought the entire Hanna-Barbera cartoon catalog. That stuff was aired, in different ways in all of his networks. But to compete with both the Family Channel and Nickelodeon, who, they were the premier children's broadcast network and cartoon provider in the 90s, they created this other network called Cartoon Network, which was launched in 1992 and initially just mainly showed those old Hanna-Barbera cartoons. But then they started off with a program called What a Cartoon, which kind of just featured different animators and shows like, Powerpuff Girls and Dexter's Laboratory, and a bunch of other 90s cartoon hits kind of came from that series. But the networks, it took a few years to get off the ground, and it wasn't available in all markets and things like that. And one of their strategies to help continue to grow the network, especially, not to mention the fact that, TBS at the time was still pretty heavily involved in NASCAR and motorsports broadcasting. So what they decided to do was sponsor a race car. And they sponsored the Diamond Ridge team. But before we even dive into that whole sponsorship, we talk about the history of Diamond Ridge, which I personally didn't know a ton about. But Diamond Ridge was owned by a guy named Gary Bechtel, who his family was very prominent in constructing a lot of really prominent structures throughout the United States in 60s, 70s, 80s. Brock goes over all those different structures. Basically, Gary ended up buying like a second home in Charlotte and kind of becoming involved in NASCAR. He became friends with Felix Abadis and wanted to get into racing. Bought a car from Felix, and actually, this is something I didn't know. Dale Jarrett was actually supposed to be the first driver of the car in the Busch Series, but he ended up taking over Neil Bonnet's ride at the Wood Brothers when Neil Bonnet was taken out of NASCAR, so that fell through. So they didn't actually field a car in 1990 like they had originally planned. What they did was they sponsored Bobby Hamilton in the TriStar Motorsports car, and then they did end up getting Phil Parsons in the car for a little bit, and they did okay. But in 1991, they went back out west, and they did the Winston West Series with Jack Krebs, who did pretty well. I think he finished, it was like fourth and third in the points in like 92 and 93. And another tidbit I didn't know, Jack Krebs, which is a name that I only heard in passing a couple times, he was in line for the ride taking over Ricky Rudd's spot at Hendrick, which apparently Jimmy Spencer turned down to drive for Junior Johnson, which that's a wild fact. I can't imagine Jimmy Spencer in a Hendrick car. But in the midst of all that, Diamond Ridge was still planning to rejoin NASCAR, and they ended up working with Steve Grissom, who, Steve Grissom at this point, he'd been in NASCAR and racing for many, many years. He had turned down, multiple scholarships at different, colleges to play football, because he was a big guy. He was like 6'5". They call him Bam Bam because, he's this big dude.
Looks like him.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely looks like him.
Yeah, I would say, if somehow you're not familiar with Steve Grissom, picture Austin Hill, but with just looks like a little more of a good old boy. He's from Alabama, and has a little more normal haircut and looks less like Bobby Hill than Austin Hill does.
There you go.
So yeah, they started working with Steve Grissom, who he ended up winning the 93 Busch Series title and won a bunch of races. I mean, he didn't really do a whole lot in Cup, but he was pretty successful in the Busch Series. So in 94, excuse me, he went to he went out for the Rookie of the Year in the Cup Series, and it was a pretty big field that year. I mean, you had the Burton brothers, you had who else was in 94? I'm trying to think. Joe Nemechek.
Yeah.
And somebody else. But their season, and they didn't have sponsorship to start the year. They wrecked in the 125 at Daytona and didn't make the race. Apparently in March, the state of Alabama declared March 9th as Steve Grissom Day. But the team at that point was kind of going through a bunch of personnel changes and, again, no sponsorship. And we're kind of struggling. And aside from a 10th at Talladega, they didn't really have a whole lot of success throughout the year. However, in the end of the season, this is 94, the end of the season, they ended up landing Meineke as their sponsor. In addition to that, they were able to lure Buddy Parrott over from Team Penske, with both the general manager and part owner of the Diamond Ridge team. And this actually, he did end up finishing second in the Rookie of the Year standings that year. But for a stacked field, that's pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
So in 95, they started off pretty strong, actually. Finished 7th in the 500 that year, 6th at Rockingham. The pit crew was doing a lot better. They had a sponsorship behind them. They top 20 in Atlanta, 6th at Darlington, another top 20 at Bristol, where he won the race the day before, his first top 5 at North Wilkesboro. And he was, even though he missed the Richmond race because qualifying was rained out, at this point he was already 9th in points. But things started to happen behind the scenes. Buddy Parrott left the team, and there were some more management team issues, and the team started to decline again. However, leading into 1996, they hired Billy Engel, who was working with Ricky Rudd previously, and they landed Cartoon Network as the sponsor. And this is when it gets really good, because this portion, they talk about Cartoon Network's involvement in the team, and it gets incredibly detailed as far as their whole marketing push with this team. There's a guy named Brett Martin who was from Hanna-Barbera and the network, and he handled all the marketing of the team. And they didn't have a whole lot of time to actually get together, the graphics and everything, but they came up with so many different paint schemes and tried to do so many unique things that really nobody was doing at this time. I mean, for those who weren't, obviously you can go back and look at old races and all the photos and stuff, and you can see how really expertly branded a lot of the big teams were. But the branding back then was pretty much just, you focus a sponsor. Most of the cars were fairly simple paint schemes, but the Cartoon Network car was completely different. What they did was they didn't really focus so much on the logo, like the Cartoon Network logo, but they focused on all of the different characters. Like, obviously you can look at these cars and you can see every single panel of the car is different. There's all these different details. In this video, they show all these different concept paint schemes and things that NASCAR wouldn't let them do, like put decals in the windows and put tacks. They had Snidely Whiplash or whatever, or Muttley, dumping tacks out the back of the car, and they wanted to put tacks all the way down the bumper, but NASCAR wouldn't let them do that.
Just incredible, all these sketches that are included in this video. Yeah,
this last portion of the video is a must watch. There's just so much that went into the branding of this car, and it was so unique compared to any other sponsorship deal at the time.
Even now, I would say.
Even now, really. At this point, now the paint schemes change all the time. Back then, that wasn't happening at all. But Cartoon Network had already planned. They wanted to do a handful of different schemes throughout the year. And the paint scheme itself kind of evolved throughout the season. Little things would change here and there. But just you look at the detail of the car, and it's to this day unlike anything else. And, I remember when this car debuted. I was 12 years old, and I had the T-shirts and stuff. And even though I wasn't necessarily a huge Cartoon Network watcher, it was such a cool car. And it was so geared towards kids that it was so much different than anything else out there. And this video kind of stops at this point before the actual 96 season starts. And things, let's just say things don't go that well. But just really getting into all of the branding and what it took to get this car to look the way it did is just such a cool story. And I'm very glad we picked this video because it was very enlightening and very entertaining to learn this stuff.
Yeah, there are 3 parts to this series as well. The other 2 videos are much longer, but I'm telling you, as soon as this one ended, I just let the second one queue up, and I watched all of it. I spent 3 hours on my couch watching this.
Yeah, I definitely plan on doing that the next couple nights for sure, because I also want to see. I have to imagine, and you can spoil it for me a little bit, that they get into the wrestling stuff getting on the cars, because it was the same team and the same network. So I Does it talk about that stuff at all or no?
I didn't finish the third one yet.
Okay, well,
so maybe they do, maybe they don't. But yeah, still, this video is incredible. Again, you don't really get to see the design side be so exposed ever. You know, I know we're friends with some graphic designers, and you kind of see what it is now. But just the fact that this was all hand drawn sketches, and to see that come to life, and how close it was to the original sketches, and especially just like how quick of a turnaround it was. And the guy who was doing it, what was his name again? Brent?
I'm looking it up here now. Brent Martin.
Yeah, Brent Martin. He just goes through how exciting of a challenge it was for him to try and create all this, because it wasn't just the cars. It was the uniforms. It was the side of the hauler. It was the merchandise. It was the banners that go on the pit box. It's the banners that go on the wall. There's like so many things to make unique and put little touches with all these characters that they have access to. And just to see the process laid out. And he's a great interview as well. He's very good at talking about what he did. Yeah. I enjoyed the hell out of this video.
Oh, is it my turn?
Yes.
Set you up right there. And
I won't lie, I really struggled to make it through the first 25 minutes of this video.
I mean, that's fair. It's not really racing related.
Yeah, I think it's more the way my brain works, because Brock is so good at doing like his research. He crammed so much information so fast into those first 25 minutes that my brain was like, wait, I haven't processed the last 10 things you said. But once they got to the end, those last 20 minutes where it goes into the detail of all those sketches that no one's ever seen before, and like Brock dug up, you know, so many photos of the team and like merchandise and the haulers and the cars and whatnot that, you know, I've never seen before either. So those last 20 minutes were incredible. And him talking about the process of like the way they had to wrap those cars, like piece by piece, like shape by shape and color was crazy.
I mean, this was still in the era that, you know, wraps weren't a thing. And all the decals were these die-cut vinyl decals, and most of them, you know, look at all the other cars in the series, and they're all fairly simple designs. I mean, yes, some of them had some more intricate graphics, but it must have taken days to get these, because I used to do this type of decaling, and it is a pain in the ass to lay everything out. So it must have taken so long to get these cars painted up the way they were. So, and then they wrecked a whole lot of them.
Oh yeah. There was a lot of re-decaling that went on here.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, just amazing work by Brock. And you know, I'm always excited to see what stuff he's coming out with, because anything he puts out is going to be incredibly informative. I know last year we talked about him and NASCAR Man doing the Ernie Irvin documentary, which I loved. And again, there's just so many things on his YouTube channel you need to check out. So if you're not a subscriber, you definitely should do that, because it is well worth your time to watch anything he puts out.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
But moving on to the video of the week for this coming week. So, Truelove is going to...
Yeah.
What's that? Yeah,
I made a request.
So Truelove is going to be camping at Talladega all weekend, so she's not going to have a whole lot of time to watch anything. No. So she asked for something short. And my first thought, I guess the first thing that popped in my head is like, well, it's going to be short. Let's do a weird one, because they haven't done a real weird video in a minute. And I started looking up videos related to like NASCAR action figures. I don't know why that popped in my head, but it did. And I found a couple interesting things, but nothing totally caught my eye until I saw a short of a woman with a pink mohawk at the track. Now, we've talked about and watched videos of fans at the track. I mean, this is a podcast about us being race fans. None of us are in the industry or anything like that. So I'm always interested to see how other people's experiences are at races. And this woman caught my eye. It was one of those YouTube shorts, and it's this woman with like a foot tall neon pink mohawk at some racetrack. I was like, what the fuck is this all about? So I looked at it, and it's a YouTube channel called Trying Something New, and it's a family that apparently just lives out of an RV now, and they go on all these trips, and apparently they're race fans, because there's actually a handful of videos of them at different racetracks, and they seem awful. So I was like, all right, let's see what this is about. So I picked a video entitled Time for the Main Event Epic NASCAR Road Trip Family Travel Vlog, where I think they go to Daytona, and it's this family of 5, and it's only 15 minutes, so again, a short one for you. But yeah, anytime I see someone with a massive pink mohawk at a racetrack, I'm like, all right, well, you're looking for attention, so I guess I'm gonna give it to you. So yeah, that's the video of the week for next week. So
so she lives in an RV with a
the whole family
mohawk.
lives in an RV. Yeah, they have this. They have 100-something thousand
Imagine what it
followers.
sounds like.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's probably a nicer RV than you're thinking of. I'll say that.
Okay,
so
that's good.
They got some money. So yeah, that'll be the video of the week. So again, Truelove is going to be at Talladega this coming week, and you know who else we didn't mention that's going to be at Talladega? I know we talked about
Jesse Awuji.
Yes, we talked about Catherine Legg, but yes, Jesse Awuji. Both Catherine Legg and Jesse Awuji are going to be in the Xfinity race.
Same field.
Hopefully, they just take each other out, not the rest of the field. But we'll see what happens.
God.
Yeah. So if somehow you've been living under a rock for the last 10 years, and you don't know how awful Jesse Awuji is as a driver. Yeah, he's probably one of the worst guys to get into a stock car in the last 20 years. And
very not good.
I hate to bring up the whole, he's just a DEI driver type deal, but he kind of is, because
doesn't
he's
help
also,
the cause. I'll tell you.
It's not because of his race, but he's also like funded by the Navy, and they kind of help put him in cars. So it's like, he shouldn't be driving. He just causes wrecks every time he's in a car, and if he makes it to a point in the race where he can wreck someone, he probably will. So be on the lookout for that on Saturday.
I will. I'll be on the lookout.
Truelove, just sit as far back from the catch fence as you can.
So yeah, you're going to be there all weekend. You're camping out all weekend?
Yes. So me and my brother are going on Thursday. We're going to pick up Mike from the airport, who has been on the show before. And we're meeting up with Steve from Texas, who's driving his RV out to the track. So
yeah, what up, Steve?
Gonna camp with those dudes. Great dudes. Right smack dab in the infield. Steve got a spot early, so he got a great spot that's like 15 feet from the boulevard, so we're going to be right in the thick of things.
Hell yes. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. I saw that Cletus McFarland, he's in the ARCA race on Saturday, but him and his crew are also camping on the boulevard, so I'll be sure to try to find him for you, Brian.
Please, you don't need to. I'm fine.
I will.
I didn't watch that
I'm
video
excited.
I didn't watch that video with him and Dale Jr., but you did, right?
I eventually got through the whole thing, but it was very tough at first, because in the first 5 minutes, him and his friend said Dega in a dumb voice about 100,000 times.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh. No, thank you.
But once they got to the part where Dale was in the truck, it was great.
Yeah, well, that's not a surprise. Cool. Well, I won't be at any races. Rob, are you doing any races this weekend or no?
Maybe the Sizzler. I got to see. I got a lot coming up. My Williams Grove plans do seem to be coming together. So that's kind of got shot to the top of the priority list there. But if I do go see any racing this weekend, it will be at Stafford Springs. And again, that's going to be a hell of a show down there on Saturday and Sunday. Of course, the Big Spring Sizzler is on Sunday. And you don't want to miss that one, even though I'm probably missing it.
It's going to rain here all weekend, so no Attica, no Fremont for me, no racing.
Yeah. And I will say this, folks. I just got some hot goss laid across my plate here. I'm not going to say who it involves, but it sounds like there's going to be some major crew chief news breaking very shortly.
I just got those texts, too.
So stand by, folks.
I don't get any fucking texts.
I got some texts from the Talladega.
I've been asked to not say who it is or where it came from, but it sounds legitimate, and It's going to be a little bit of a surprise, but maybe not, actually.
Okay, well, I can't wait to hear about it in 5 minutes.
We'll tell you in 5 minutes.
Cool. Well, with that, as always, you can follow us on Instagram at meetmeatapplebees and on Twitter at meetmeatthebees. I am Speedway Screens on all the things. SpeedwayTSJ.etsy.com is the shop, and MMA Applebees for 15% off at checkout.
That's still Snake Mountain _ Truelove. I probably won't be posting shit this weekend because Talladega service is garbage. So
Going to be knee deep in mud.
Yep, it's gonna be off and on rain all weekend too. So
Hooting,
I
hollering.
looked. It seemed like Saturday and Sunday should be okay though.
Sunday
Friday
looks
looks
great.
iffy. Yeah.
It's yeah. But I want to go ahead and apologize to our listeners because I already requested that we record a day late next week so I can have time to recover.
That's fair. That's fair. Totally understandable. Rob Motes _ unofficial on Instagram. My band's called These Wild Plains. I do actually have a show coming up here. Me and the boys are backing up Charlie Marie in Malden on May 9th. That'll be fun at a place called Faces Brewing. Cool room. I forget who else is on the show, but I will be there playing the drums for Charlie, and we'll be playing some new jams from her. So she doesn't play at the full band very often, so this is one of your rare chances. I know there's not really any country music fans here in New England because there's something wrong with you, but if you want to get into the good shit, come out and see us and say what's up, and we'll have a beer together on May 9th.
Nice.
Cool. Well, cool. Thanks for. Fucked it up. Looks like the check is here. Thanks for joining us again at Applebee's, and we'll talk to y'all next week.